So to start this delightful flow where we're going to focus on some core work and some work on our glutes as well, just settle into the mat in a child's pose. So reaching forwards with your fingertips, hips back towards the heels, and just starting to deepen your breath. So feeling your belly rising against your thighs as you inhale, and then just gently drawing back in as you exhale, just connecting with that nice deep breath, relaxing, and then just rocking forwards onto all fours, letting your belly just dip slightly, and then arching your spine, just starting to warm up the spine here. And a few cat-cows. Just take this at your own pace. Enjoy the slowness and just starting to move the body. And then we're just going to open up, lifting the right hand to the sky and bring it underneath the chest. If you want, you can bring the left hand behind the hip, otherwise keep the hand on the floor. Just taking a slight twist here, and then bringing the left hand back, opening back up, hands back to the mat, and we'll take it to the other side. So left hand comes up underneath, bringing your cheek to the floor, and then if you want to bring that right hand around to grab your left thigh, then feel free to. Nice deep breaths in between the shoulders. Enjoying the slowness of the movement, coming back up with intention, and then tucking the toes, lifting the knees off the mat, squeezing the belly, and just slowly bringing the hips up to the sky for the first Adho Mukha Savasana, downward facing dog. So trying to lift that tailbone up to the sky. Don't worry about heels coming down to the mat if you want to bend your knees. And then when you're ready, just making your way forwards into a nice forward fold. Keeping the knees nice and bent, rocking side to side, taking opposite elbows to do that. And then straightening the legs and looking forwards, coming back down into a forward fold before gently coming up to stand. Hands coming through to the heart center, down by your side. Mountain pose. So just taking some circles with your wrists to warm them up. Super important. And then reaching arms overhead. Hands coming up to the sky. And then taking the hands behind the head and gently pushing the chin towards your chest. Trying to keep your elbows in as we just warm up the back of the neck. And then looking up towards the sky. Warming up the throat. Hands come back down by your side. Take a few circles, nice slow circles with your head. Really warming up into the top of the neck. Really nice and slow. To be really gentle with yourself. Chin comes all the way down to the chest. Opening. And then bring your right hand to your left ear and just gently bring the right ear over to the right shoulder. Feeling that stretch in the side of the neck and then taking it to the other side. Coming back, reaching up, taking the left hand down to the right foot, trying to look up towards the right fingertips. Nice twist. And then coming back through the middle and taking it over to the left-hand side. So right hand, left foot, opening up, looking to the left-hand side. Rising up. And then Bringing your hands through the middle, down by your side, back into mountain pose, rising the arms overhead, folding forwards, inhaling to look up, halfway lift, placing the hands on the mat and stepping back into a plank. We're just going to lower all the way down to the mat or through chaturanga and then lifting the hips up to the sky for downward facing dog. Bringing your right leg up, just opening the hip, bending the knee, opening the hip to the side. Trying to keep both hands on the mat though, nice and strong. And then the right leg comes up behind you, through your hands, and we're going to just rise up to take a high lunge. So nice bend in the front knee, just come down as low as feels good, it doesn't matter. And then just take some little pulses, see if you can use your inhale to lift up and your exhale to come down. And on your next exhale, just twist over towards the right side. See if you can look over the hand that's behind you. Try to keep both arms at the same height. Enjoying that gentle twist in your spine. And then as you inhale, rising back up, hands into the middle. We're going to take the hands back to the front of the mat, come into a plank. So squeezing your glutes together here, squeezing both those bum cheeks together, the most forgotten thing in a plank. And then just lowering yourself down all the way to the mat. Bringing your hands just off the mat, just going to lift the chest and take some little lifts up. If you want to twist slightly side to side as you do this, then feel free to. Just gently warming up the chest, bringing the hands back under the shoulders, lifting back up, tucking your toes and bringing the hips to the sky for downward dog. Left leg is coming up behind this time, just bending the knee, opening up the hip a bit. Might feel a little bit creaky, mine always do. And then when you are ready, just straightening that leg up behind you and bringing it between the hands at the front of the mat to rise up for that lovely high lunge on the other side. And again, just playing with your breath. So when you inhale, lifting up, and exhale to see if you can bring yourself down a little bit closer, depending on how hard you want to work your quads and your glutes, opening up to the left side. Seeing if you can look over that back hand. If not, just keep looking forwards. And then opening back up to center, framing the foot, taking that left foot back, and then coming into plank and just rocking forwards and backwards in plank. So making sure everything in the midline is active. Using all the muscles to keep a nice straight line from the crown of your head to your heels. And then lowering yourself down to the mat. Hands are just coming off the mat as we come into baby cobra. Just lifting the chest slightly. Forearms pushing into the ground. Coming back up and lifting the hips for downward facing dog. Looking to the front of the mat, walking or taking a little hop there, folding forwards over your legs, looking up, halfway lift, exhaling to fold, inhaling to bring the arms behind your back, taking either opposite elbows or if you want to interlace the fingers, squeezing the shoulders together. Let's get a nice stretch between the shoulders. Keep your knees nice and bent here. It kind of defeats the object to straighten them. So we're just having a nice stretch in the backs of our legs and between our shoulders right now. And then bringing yourself back up, halfway lift, looking forwards. Exhaling to fold towards the legs. Inhale, rise up for mountain pose. And then we're coming down into Utkatasana. So sticking your bum out, bringing the weight into your heels. Try lifting up your toes if you can. Bring the hands down towards heart center. And then as we exhale, we're just going to twist to the right. So hooking that left arm to the outside of the thigh, making sure that everything is working here. It's not just one muscle group working, everything is working to keep us in this pose. And then coming over to the other side. Trying to see if you can get that bum down a little bit lower. I know it's a hard one. And then arms up by your ears. Couple more breaths. Before we just fold forwards as we exhale. Looking up. Jumping or stepping back into our plank again. Before lowering down all the way or through chaturanga. Lifting the chest, upward dog. Hips to the sky. Downward facing dog. Just take a little walk with the dog. Before we lift the right leg up behind, we place it between the hands at the front of the mat. And we rise up again for a high lunge. Just taking those up and down movements. Using your breath, squeezing the glutes. Trying to make sure your hips are even, parallel to the front of the mat. And then bringing your hands to the heart center. We're just going to try with hooking the left elbow to the outside of the right leg in a twist. So really pushing through the back heel as well to keep your balance. And then rising back up. High lunge, placing the left hand to the inside of the right foot, opening up for a twist on this side. And then rising back up, high lunge, before spinning the back foot and opening out, Virabhadrasana, Warrior 2. So arms are nice and strong. Try to keep a nice bend in that front leg before bending both feet. Not feet, knees. You can't bend your feet. Coming into Goddess. Just making sure your pelvis is forwards. You're not, sticking your bum out. We've got a nice tight core. Lifting up from the pelvic floor. See if you can try with lifting one foot or lifting the other foot. Arms are out either side of you. And then gently coming back up and into Warrior 2. Windmilling the hands down to the mat, taking that right foot back to meet the left. We're in plank, rocking forwards, coming down either through chaturanga or down through your flow to the floor, and then lifting the hips up for downward facing dog. Looking to your hands, walking or taking a little hop towards them at the front of the mat. Looking forwards, halfway lift, exhaling to fold, inhaling to rise all the way back up. Hands coming through, heart center, down by your side for mountain pose. Inhaling to rise up, exhaling to fold, hands down by your side, exhaling, jumping or stepping back, coming down through your flow once more. Promise there aren't that many more of these left. Lifting the hips to the sky, downward facing dog. This time left leg's coming up behind, between the hands, rising up. High lunge. Just playing with coming up and down again. You can go as deep as you like with this, depending on how much you really want to work your muscles. Just making sure you're using your breath. See how far you can go, and then hooking that right arm to the outside of the left leg. Just pushing your hands together in a prayer, and then pushing the right arm into the outside of the left leg, and your leg is pushing against the arm as well, so we're creating some resistance. And then just bringing the arms back up overhead, and the right hand comes to the inside of the left foot as we look up to the other side. Rising up again, high lunge, and then opening out to Warrior 2. So hips are parallel with the long side of the mat. Nice bend in your front leg. Making sure the knee doesn't come over the ankle joint. See if you can get that bend a little bit deeper. And then straightening the leg. Bringing both feet to point to the opposite corners of the mat. We're coming down for Goddess on this side. So really tucking the tailbone under, squeezing your core, playing with lifting the heels up if you can, if it's available to you, if you can keep a nice straight spine. Arms out by the side, and then playing with rocking up and down like a squat if you can, to come a bit deeper. Inhaling to lift, and then bending the front knee, coming back into Warrior Two. Windmill your hands down to the mat, frame the front foot, and come down through your flow, trying to keep those elbows in towards your rib cage. Coming up into downward facing dog. Nice deep breaths here. Looking towards the front of the mat, walking or taking a little hop towards your hands. Looking up, folding forwards, and then rising all the way up to standing. Hands coming down through the middle. Now coming to the front of your mat and just setting up for a squat basically, but on one leg. We're bringing the left leg over the right and trying to bend that right knee. So we're stretching out the hamstring. And then just slowly seeing if you can sink a little bit deeper down into the squat before rising up and then crossing the legs to come into eagle. If you want to take eagle arms and cross the right arm over the left, reaching the fingertips towards the sky. Trying to keep a nice straight spine here, trying to root down through that foot that's on the floor. And then gently unraveling, we're keeping the leg lifted and kicking back behind us as we take Warrior Three. You can bring your hands to your hips to stabilize, or you can bring them to your heart center, or if you want to challenge yourself, you can bring them out behind you before bringing the hands down either side of the front foot. Keeping that back leg lifted for standing split. Trying to fold your head down towards your shin. And then gently placing the foot behind you, rising up. High lunge. Love a high lunge. And then I'm just showing you this because I was obviously facing not the front of my mat. And then we're bringing the left hand to the outside of the right leg to create a nice twist. Trying to keep a nice straight line from the fingers that are on the floor to the ones in the sky, and then coming down. You can bring both legs together to take a plank. Hold a plank for a couple of breaths, and then coming down to the mat, lifting up for upward dog and tucking the toes to come into downward dog. Tailbone to the sky, and then looking to your hands, hopping or stepping forwards to the front of the mat, looking forwards, folding down over the legs and rising all the way up. Hands come down through the middle by your side for mountain pose. We'll take the same on the opposite leg. So this time right leg is coming over the left to get this figure four shape. Trying to sit back into it. You can bring your hands to your heart and just taking it as deep as you want to, basically. It's however much of a stretch you need. Seeing if you can sink a little bit deeper, if that's where you want to go. And then gently coming back up and trying to keep that leg off the floor, cross it over. Work out which arm you didn't do on the other side and cross them over as we take eagle on this side, reaching those fingertips towards the sky. Every muscle is active here. We're using everything. We're not relying on one group of muscles to do the work. And then unraveling the arms, keeping that leg lifted, not letting it touch the floor, kicking back out for Warrior Three. So toes are pointed towards the floor. Nice, strong standing leg. Squeezing the belly, glutes are working to keep everything stabilized, and then gently dropping that back foot, rising up. Right hand comes to the outside of your left foot. Looking up to the hand that's going towards the sky. Bringing both hands to frame the front foot, taking it back into a plank, rocking forwards and coming down through your chaturanga, or coming all the way down to the floor, lifting the chest, bringing your hips up to the sky. Nice. Downward dog, just trying to create a nice straight line from your head to tailbone, lifting up the right leg behind you, and then we're bringing it in between the arms, lifting it back up behind you, coming over to the right side, lifting it up behind you, and then placing the foot between the hands as we open back up for another warrior two. Looking over your front fingertips, trying to keep the alignment, your heels pointing towards the instep of your left foot, and then straightening the leg, reaching forwards and taking Trikonasana, triangle pose. So here the goal isn't really to get your hand down to the floor, it's to create a nice straight line with the arms. Opening back up to warrior two, and then windmilling the hands down to the mat, taking it back into a plank, rocking forwards and then coming down either all the way or through your chaturanga, lifting your chest and rolling back over onto your toes for downward facing dog. And we'll just go through the same on the other side. So left foot up behind, bending the knee, bringing it through towards the hands, lifting it back up behind you, using your belly all the time, and then crossing the body with the leg back up behind and placing the leg between the hands, opening up into warrior two. Trying to make sure you're really using your glutes for this position. Nice bend in the front leg. Back foot is glued to the mat, so it's not lifting up on the outside of the foot. And then straightening that front leg. Just bringing the back leg in a little bit, reaching forwards, and when you can't reach anymore, coming down, Trikonasana. So reaching towards the sky with your fingertips, really lifting up, creating that space in the rib cage, really opening up the side body here, and then coming back, warrior two. Making sure that back foot is gripped, and then windmilling the hands down to the mat, coming through your flow. So either coming all the way down or coming through your chaturanga, lifting up into upward dog, over the toes, into downward dog. Just taking a couple of breaths here, downward dog. And then looking to the hands, hopping towards the front of the mat, but staying low this time. We take a Malasana squat. You can be on the balls of your feet or on the flat, on the complete sole of your foot. And then slowly rising all the way up to stand. And then coming back down, feet are as wide as the mat. And then up again, really using your belly to help you lift. And then come back down. Nice. Deep breaths here. And then we're just going to jump back and hold a plank. So wrists are under your shoulders. Everything is working. Don't forget your bum here. And then lowering yourself down nice and slowly to the mat, all the way, relying on the mat. Hands are under the shoulders. And then bending your knees, trying to take your feet, and we're just going to lift the chest into, as we go up into bow pose. So really squeezing your belly here to avoid overstretching your lower back, really using your core and your glutes to keep that chest lifted off the floor. And then coming down, hands are under the shoulders and bringing them behind you. We're going to try lifting up the chest again, and this time if you want to lift your feet at the same time, you can. Superman. So really squeezing the belly and making sure you're using your glutes to lift your legs up from the floor. You can keep your legs on the floor if you just want to make it about the front body, and then hands come under your shoulders. We lift up into cobra, tuck the toes and bring the hips to the sky for downward facing dog. Looking between the hands, taking a walk or a hop towards them, folding forwards, inhaling halfway lift, exhaling to fold, inhaling to rise, all the way up. Hands are coming through heart center. And taking Utkatasana, bum comes back. Weight in the heels of your feet. Really squeezing your thighs together, inner thighs are active. Seeing if you can come a bit deeper, and then coming all the way down to a boat pose. You can hold the backs of your legs if you like, otherwise using your core to keep those legs lifted. And we're just going to rock back and take a couple of rocks back and forth, and just releasing the lower back, and then coming back into Anavasana, our boat pose. So if you want to hold the backs of your legs, then do. Otherwise, try to use your core to keep those legs lifted and keep the arms out in front of you. And then we're just going to cross the legs, just lift the bum off the floor, and take a couple more boat poses because it's so much fun. So really try not to lean back here, so really engaging every single muscle in your belly to keep the legs lifted. And then hugging your knees in and taking a couple more of those little rocks. Giving yourself a little massage on your back before coming back up. And just crossing the legs, coming into a nice seated position, reaching the arms up to the sky, and then just twisting over to the right hand side. Little twist, gentle twist in the spine, coming up through center and over to the other side. Arms overhead, and then we're just going to take a little hip opener, so walking the hands forwards, seeing if you can just bring your chest down towards the floor. You don't have to come very far forwards to feel the stretch in your hips. Not forgetting those nice deep breaths. Using the breath to try and create some space in the hips, and then walking the hands back towards you, bringing your knees back into your chest, and we're going to take Navasana once more. Really squeeze the thighs together, squeeze your belly. See if you can keep those legs lifted before coming down towards the mat, but not bringing the legs down and up again. We're doing like some crunches, up and then down again, up and then back down, up and down. So legs aren't coming towards the floor, back up into boat pose, and then you can relax, bring yourself all the way down to the mat. Bring your legs up towards the sky, soles of the feet towards the sky. We're just going to rock up into shoulder stand. So you can support your lower back with your hands. Really engage, make sure the legs are completely engaged so your feet are active. And if you want to take it further, you can bring the legs down over your head. Otherwise, just stay in shoulder stand. Bringing the toes down towards the mat behind you. If you want to interlace the fingers, squeeze your shoulders together. Taking some nice deep breaths, and then slowly bringing the legs back up if they're behind your head. Hands come to the lower back as you gently and slowly lower yourself down to the mat. We're just going to take the counter pose for shoulder stand. So fish, you can bring your hands under your bum and then just arch your back. If you can come onto the crown of your head, then feel free to. Otherwise, just stay with just your hips raised on your hands. Again, your toes should be pointed or flexed in this pose so that the legs are active. And then coming out, just taking a little wiggle side to side. Bring the knees into the chest. Rock side to side. And then crossing the right leg over the left. We'll take a nice hamstring stretch. So bringing that left leg in towards the chest. The further you bring it in, the deeper the stretch will be. And then crossing your legs, just letting them fall over to the left-hand side. If you want to look over your right shoulder, deepen this spinal twist. Just breathing nice and deeply, starting to slow the practice down. Coming back through the middle, lifting the hips up as we take a bridge. Squeezing your glutes together and your thighs together. If you want to try lifting one leg up, lifting the other leg up, to challenge yourself. Otherwise, just keeping this nice bridge shape. If you want to support your low back, you can bring your hands to the low back, or like if you have a block, you can make it more restorative posture before gently lowering down and then lifting back up again. So really trying to keep your knees tracking in a nice straight line over your feet. Lifting up the hips, letting them come down again. Taking these little pulses a few times, as many times as you feel like you need. Working the glutes for one last time for the practice. I'm really going for it. I'm not sure how many times more. There we go. And then we're just going to take, you can take another bridge, or if you want to go into full wheel, then you can take a full wheel, lifting up, real intense back bend. If you want here to play with lifting up a leg, lifting up another leg, then feel free to. Otherwise, just taking whatever variation of bridge pose is working right now, before gently and slowly releasing, coming down, and then bringing the knees into the chest, giving yourself a nice hug, rocking side to side. And we'll take that hamstring stretch on the other side. So left foot comes over right thigh, hands behind the thigh, and gently bringing the leg towards you. Nice deep stretch in the hamstring. Therefore, we cross the legs and just let them fall out to the right hand side. You can look over to the left hand side if you like. Slowing down your breath, but still connecting with it. Nice. Deep breaths all the way down into the belly. And then unraveling, rocking side to side, taking your knees into your chest, giving yourself a nice big hug. If you want to take a happy baby here, best pose in all of yoga, then please do. Hands to the outside of the feet, knees towards the armpits, just rocking. And then just take any last stretches you might need from your practice for settling down for Shavasana. I've decided here that I'm going to take Shavasana with my feet, the soles of my feet touching, to open my hips a little bit. It can be really nice to do this and then put some pillows or some cushions under your knees to support the legs. Otherwise, just bring your legs as wide as the mat. And just slowing down, closing down your eyes, relaxing, just taking a few minutes to let all the goodness from the practice start to absorb, just relaxing your mind and letting your breath just guide the Shavasana.